Now, it's time for the Anchormen podcast with Matt Gaetz and Dan Ball.
Welcome back to the Anchorman program. I'm Matt Gaetz, host of the Matt Gaetz Show here on One American News. You can catch us 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, and I am joined by some incredible guests. One of our anchors here at One American News. She hosts the 2 o'clock Eastern and the 4 o'clock Eastern program, Stella Escobedo. Stella, thank you for helping us to continue to break the gender barrier here on Anchorman.
I love it. We were talking right before this. I'm like, who just wants to hear like men speak? Like, you need the women on your show. So this is awesome. But I love both of you, so no offense.
Well, based on our listenership last program, fewer people wanted to hear just us, but I am joined as always by my on-again, off-again employee, one of the producers on the Matt Gaetz Show, the founding producer of Steve Bannon's War Room, Vish Burra. Vish, thanks for being here.
Always glad to be here with you, Matt and Stella. It's nice to be here with you too.
I love how you're embracing the whole San Diego thing. Like, look at that color. Look at it.
They told me when in Rome.
You look amazing.
I don't see color. And another man who doesn't is my good friend Chris Dorworth, who is piped in from Washington, D.C., where he's probably aware of all the crazy goings on there. Chris, thank you for joining me on Anchorman. I think this is your Anchorman debut.
This is my first time. Thanks for having me, Matt.
All right, so first thing I want to discuss, and here's kind of my theme for the show, what gives first? What gives first, okay? So Harvard University right now is having to fill like a $2.2 billion hole because the federal government was heavily invested in everything they were doing there at Harvard. And now with those funds pulled back, you're seeing Harvard potentially having to go out for a note, get a loan. Harvard is now having to face the executive order from Trump that prohibits a bunch of their DEI activities, but they get all this money from the federal government that is in jeopardy. So I'm going to start, ladies first, I'm going to start with you, Stella. What gives first? Harvard's need for money or their need for DEI?
Their need for DEI.
They'll take the money, you think?
No. Actually, they won't take the money.
Oh, they will latch on to DEI.
They made it clear.
Okay.
They made it clear that they want to continue to push their radical leftist agenda and continue to be racist. Literally, they had Harvard, I don't know if you guys saw, they had segregated graduations. And the only people who didn't have their graduations were Jews and whites.
Wait. Paint the picture of the Harvard segregated graduation.
So they had Latinx graduation.
I've never met a Latinx person. I would have gone to the Harvard graduation just to meat my first Latinx. Yeah.
By the way,
I have an actual Latinx, but that was just somebody I dated.
So listen, I was part of mainstream media when this whole Latinx thing happened, and my husband is Mexican himself. My sister-in-laws, they're Mexican. And I said, what is Latinx, you guys? I've never heard of it. Nobody knew what it was. No Latinos could tell me what Latinx was.
But wait, they had a graduation where they were segregated down to that level?
Yeah, Latinx, and then they had indigenous people, then they had graduation for the disabled people, but I looked into it.
What if you were indigenous and disabled? Could you do it twice?
You could go both. I don't know the details. But my point is that Harvard has doubled down and they are going to continue to go woke. And I mean, you saw what the president said on True Social. He was like, what, Harvard, they hired de Blasio. They hired from Chicago, what's her name, Lori Lightfoot.
Oh my God.
It's just a cesspool of just DEI crazy wokeness, and they're doubling down on it.
And they'll pay the price. They'll pay the price.
They'll pay the price. They have a lot of money in endowment. They have a lot of, I'm sure they get a lot of money from oil-rich countries in China. Maybe they'll survive in that way.
Chris Dorworth, are they taking the money?
I think sooner or later they're going to take the money because they're sitting on $53 billion and their endowment right now, which is just a giant hedge fund. Today, President Trump announced via Twitter, which you had to imagine shot through Harvard pretty brutally, that they were going to start taking steps to get rid of that. And I mean, $53 billion of tax exempt money is a pretty rare thing. What you really have to grasp is how stupid the things they're doing are. Like the DOJ and the education department sent them a letter saying, just stop being racist. Just treat people based on merit, and you can have everything you want. And they were like, nope, not going to do that. Not going to do that. And as she pointed out, I mean, they hired like the two worst modern mayors, the people who like led Chicago to becoming like the murder capital of America, and the guy who literally ruined the city of New York City. And they're like, this is exactly what the best and brightest of tomorrow should be listening to. I mean, it's just painfully stupid. Sooner or later, though, the dollars will make sense, because I can't imagine they're going to go down this road. It's going to go poorly. And if you remember, like when I was a kid, Harvard was like something to aspire to. Now it's a punchline. And that's got to be a brutal experience for people who went there. They're like seventh generation Harvard. It's been around for 500 years. And it just proved that you could spend 500 years doing great things and like be an idiot for a couple years. And here we are. And so I think sooner or later they're going to buckle for the money.
I actually agree with Chris on this point, because it's not just the money, it's the prestige of taking that money, right? The fact that they are taking money from the federal government and utilizing it means more than the dollars themselves. It's Harvard as the trusted custodian as to how those funds can shape our vision of the future and our interaction with technology and our sense of justice and our methods of transportation. Vish, what do you think, the money or the DEI?
I actually think that they're going to try to have their cake and eat it too. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to make the move by saying, we'll comply, don't stop the grants, and then just house the DEI stuff under a new department, new name, new something, because ultimately these people do not respect Donald Trump. They don't respect his voters. And I think that they could get over on the whole thing.
Because they think they're smarter than all of us.
Exactly, right?
They are smart enough to have both, huh?
Yes, I think that is the ivory tower elitist mentality that drives them that got them into the mess in the first place. And they have no choice but to rely on that to get out of it. And so I think that they're going to try to pull a move by saying, we're going to comply with the orders. Don't stop the money faucet. Send us the cash. We're getting rid of the DEI programs right now. But that is not the true measure. The true measure is how many of the administrators that they actually end up firing because the DEI is now out of the building. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think any of that's going to happen. There are not going to be any firings. They need the money to fund the administrators in the first place, right? And then they don't want to go back. We don't want to kill the elitist pipeline of talent that we've been creating here in the first place. So we're going to house this under something else, some other new name. We're going to take that money and we're just going to keep feeding our machine, our monster.
I kind of like what you're saying here, because I could see that happening as well. You see corporations are doing that now.
Yes.
They're just rebranding it in a different way. But
how are they rebranding? Like, what are the names of the new DEI things? How should we find them?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all you have to, I think that what you got to do, you got to go look at what these new names are, right? There have been some reports that this is happening. I haven't seen what those new names are, but they shouldn't be hard to find. There's always going to be some highfalutin language, or actually not even highfalutin.
But they haven't given up what Stella's point is they haven't given up on the true goal of, reshaping how we think about race, gender, religion, and those things.
No. And
No, I don't think. I'm sorry, Coach. I don't think they're ever going to do that. And by the way, if you follow X, if you're on social media, about once every other day now, there's some example of some university president. I think that the other day there was a guy in Brevard County, Florida, at Florida Technical. He got up and gave a little speech and said, "Hey, don't worry, we're just working." He met with his diversity cabinet, is what it was called, and said, "We're going to find a workaround on this." So the idea that Harvard is not going to try to do that is laughable. They're absolutely going to do that. But the point is, I think it's kind of one of those situations where once they revoke the tax status, it's going to be tough to get that back, and I guess maybe in theory the next administration could come in and some Harvard grads there, they could reinstate it. But I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on that. So I think the damage will be done quickly, and it will be like the Titanic hitting the iceberg and slowly sinking. And of course, they can tap into that $53 billion of endowment if they want to. I mean, they have the money to fix this problem. I just don't think they have the will or courage to do so.
Go ahead, Saul.
Well, I was also going to talk about like the bigger picture and all of this. A lot of the students, though, too, are international students.
At Harvard?
Just our universities,
Oh, okay.
And the professors as well. And you look at the bigger picture of the federal funding that they get with all this research stuff that they do. Who knows where this information is going? Is it going to China? I mean, where is this information going? They're using our tax dollars against us.
We've globalized higher education in the United States. We've, just like everything else, just because like our elections have become globalized, our economy has become globalized, our tech has become globalized.
Our institutions.
Even our higher ed institutions have become globalized.
Well, that's because, and here's the other thing. What's devious about the internationalization, the globalization of that? It's not because there's some tremendous love from Harvard to these international kids. The real reason they want them there is because they pay full tuition, not state tuition, not scholarship, nothing. They pay the full dime to go to these universities, and they can charge these foreign students the full price. And that is
by the way, with the educational product that they're putting out, maybe that's our grift on the world, is we're selling you our overpriced, crappy higher ed product. Like, Chris, I think about the generations of Floridians that benefited off of the Florida prepaid program. And the deal was you could pay along the way, lock in the price of higher education when your kids were born. And that way, by the time they were old enough to go to college, you'd obtain this great value by locking in a low price. But you think about parents in Florida now, or anywhere where there's a prepaid program, is it really even a good deal to lock your children into the university system that exists today? Like, how far are we from Apple, Google, Meta, Anduril, the major corporate and technology platforms of our time, not just designing their own concierge higher ed system that you can finance and plug into and then measure real value out of?
Listen, I'm a mother of two, and my kids are young. My oldest is 8 years old, but I have friends whose kids are in high school, either getting ready for college, or they are in college right now. And the conversations that are, happening behind the scenes are like, where does my child go to school? And what school do they go to? And when I send them there, is it even worth it? Am I gonna have a child that comes back that is completely brainwashed with all of this DEI? We have a really big problem when it comes to our universities. I came to this country as a refugee, and the goal always was go to school, get your education, and then you can go out there, you can get a successful job. I don't know if that's the case anymore, you guys. It really, with AI taking over, my little one, she goes online and she can edit a video in like 5 seconds. I'm like, how did you do that? I should hire you.
Yeah, I'm convinced I'm totally replaceable by AI.
Yeah.
Almost anything I do could be replaced by AI. Chris, do you think that higher ed as a prospect is still a value proposition going forward, or is this sense of disorientation that Stella just described parents feeling gonna create a lot more fragmentation in that market?
Well, we're a judgmental society, and college is one of the things that if you have it, it's sort of a checkbox. There was a great scene in The Tulsa King where he said, basically he was saying to somebody else, you should go to college for one reason. It just shows your potential employer that you could take basically 40 classes in a college setting, 10 in the same subject, and like maybe 10 or 15 in general education. That's more or less the format for all of college. Just this last week, Palantir said, we think that college is sort of unnecessary. If you're the best and brightest, if you're the kind of person that maybe 10 years ago would have applied to Harvard, and then gone there, racked up $300,000 in debt, and then, gone on. Instead, just come work for us, because the job you're going to want when you get out of Harvard is a job with Palantir. I think that is sort of, that is certainly the beginning of something, and I highly doubt it's the last of it. But listen, I think I'm 48 years old. I think in my life, college is going to be is always going to be important. I don't think we're going to get away from that. But I do think there's going to be alternative means of doing it. And, Harvard has always kind of been a grift in that regard. If I'm not mistaken, I think they have the largest law school in the country. So, they are, minting lawyers, but they're making money for each and every one of those. And they're just, processing it out there. Whether or not people to make a decision and not go there has a lot to do with the fact that if you have prospects and a good job, if you're a tremendous coder, if you can do these things, college becomes much less necessary. But oftentimes I think people are like, I'm just going to go do a startup and be like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg. It's for every one of those, there's a whole bunch of folks that really wish they would have finished. So I don't think we're quite done with college. I just think the system's so broken and stupid. That
it's really expensive.
I think that credentialization that Chris just described is a fading element.
Yeah.
Vish, I'll give you the last word, and then we'll go to the next.
So it's the whole problem here we're talking about is credentialism in the first place. And by the way, these things that you're talking about, like, is Apple going to build like its own university? It's actually already been built. There are places like Coursera you can go to. Udemy is another platform that's basically, serves up content that is, lessons with lessons plans and everything in between. And actually, those lessons are taught by the number one people in their space, right? The logic or the paradigm has always been that if you're the best in the subject, you go and do the thing. If you're the middle tier in the subject, you're the marketer or maybe the politician. But if you graduate in the bottom third, don't take it personally. If you graduate in the bottom third of that subject, you go and teach the subject. That has been the paradigm, right? And so now with platforms like Udemy and Coursera, you can actually have the number one person in that subject area go and make a video teaching that same subject matter to the people, and you can actually boutique structure those lessons plans. If you're homeschooling, you decide I'm not going to send my kid to college, you structure lessons based on these things that are available.
And the capability that emerges out of that is the antidote to the false credentialism, in my view. All right.
Can I just add one more thing? Sure. Even when I went to journalism school, I went to USC for broadcast journalism, and when you got out of school, you're supposed to pay your dues. You go to a small market, and then when I was looking for a job and I wanted to come back home to LA, it was one of those things I would look on KABC or whatever, and it'd say, 5 years in this market, and then you need another 5 years in this market. Nowadays, I'm looking at these young people, they come straight out of school. First of all, they can't even get people into these newsrooms anymore, like the small market newsrooms, because first of all, they're coming out of school. Their technology, the way they use, the way they edit, the way they write, the way they do things is way different than the way we used to do it.
And better.
And much better. And so I sit back and I go, man.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, it's a whole different world we're living in.
Yeah. And I think that there's great possibility in it. But I think we have to get through the inefficiencies that are presented with the false credentialism. Okay. So this next topic that I'm dying to chat about, we saw internet videos go viral of these Chinese manufacturers and not selling fake Hermes or Dolce & Gabbana, but they are the actual manufacturers of these multi-$1,000 pieces of accessories, and they are selling them right before the brand goes on, like I guess the H for Hermes or the DG for Dolce & Gabbana. And I want to play what we've seen from that for our viewers, and then have everybody react to the dynamic and that's going on. So go ahead and play that spot.
I will tell you 30 luxury brands. Some of their products are made in China. Ralph Lauren, Armani, Nike, Dior, Lululemon, Apple, Michael Kors, Coach, Calvin Klein, Prada, Balmain, Swarovski, Adidas, The North Face, Rimowa, Levi's, Burberry, Versace, Chanel, Cartier, Ferragamo, Timberland, Yves Saint Laurent, Victoria's Secret, Puma, Uniqlo, Disney, Max Mara, Givenchy. The producing cost is only 1/10 of its price.
And so they're using that as a platform to go and sell these things. Your take, Stella.
So it's funny that you bring this up because my feed on social media is full of these videos, And my mom calls me and she's like, did you see they're putting out these videos like crazy. I mean, this is intentional by China, obviously.
Is there big adoption with like American white women to go and buy these luxury brands in this way?
So my mom, she's like, oh my goodness, was all of my stuff made in China? And I gotta be honest with you, I don't believe that the Hermes bag, I really don't. You can tell the quality. The Louis Vuitton stuff, I mean, you've seen it like on the streets of New York and stuff like that. Like,
oh, I've seen
you actually took my punchline there. I was gonna say there's nothing that I've seen there so far that I haven't seen on a street corner on Canal Street in Chinatown.
But I bought one of those one of those purses from the Canal
Just
Street.
one?
Just yes, and it's not even close, you guys.
Okay,
It's not. I don't believe. I think this is China's way of attacking our brands, attacking us.
This is information unrestricted warfare, according to
that's
you.
what I think this is, and going like, hey, people, everything you guys have been buying from your $100 Lululemon pants to your $1,000 purses comes from China, but that's not verified. I mean,
Okay, so you're actually believing this is a deep fake.
The definition.
Well,
of
yeah,
fake-
okay, not
yes.
yeah, but this is a scheme to
I think this is China.
conceal. All right,
Yes.
Vish, are you going along with that?
I think Stella is right about that. This being a form of information warfare, but I think it's information warfare because they are getting desperate in China to kind of turn off this trade war, this tariff war, and I think that what they're trying to do is basically tell the American public, especially the women who love a lot of these products, that, hey, like, you can come buy direct from us and you could save money. You don't have to go and pay these people thousands of dollars and whatnot. You could come buy direct from us. Look, it looks the same and everything. And I think it's a way to
fly to China and come get it direct.
No, then you just go on their website, a Temu version.
But don't you have to pay the tariff taxes then?
Well, I think that they are going to find a way to try to get these products into the. How do those bags get to Canal Street in New York? It's the same way. Right? Like there is a crate somewhere or a shipping container that's on a boat hitting the port in New Jersey that is unaccounted for, filled with this stuff that gets off the boat and finds its way to Canal Street. So,
but Stella says that's not the same stuff. And so what I believe, I am sensing a different motivation here. I think that growth has slowed in China substantially. The working conditions there have gotten very bad. We've seen riots, protests at a lot of these factories, and the workers have had enough. And they've seen enough of capitalism in what they're able to access in the information space, and they're out there selling. And what's actually giving here is the corporatized CCP control over the labor force. And what is pushing through that is an entrepreneurial spirit to have a side hustle.
Interesting. Okay. I think that there is some part of that is true, but my thing is that China is not going to let out anything, especially in the information space, that they don't approve of.
I agree with you.
So like China wants this information out. They want these videos going viral on TikTok. They want to. It's a form of demoralization that I think that they want to try and take place. Like, listen, you're getting it.
Is it a targeted strike on our elites then?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
My mom, I mean, like, she's an immigrant to this country and she's on social media and she's calling me and she's like, is all my stuff fake? Is all my stuff from China?
But do you think that they can build an apprehension or a concern within this country?
Yeah, I think
with
it's
people.
working.
It's like, oh no.
Yeah, no,
I am not going to get my Timberlands.
No, but it is working because we hear stories about like, hey, your pants that you're buying, let's say Lululemon or whatever, have chemicals in there or whatever. It's building this apprehension to people being like, okay, so where am I getting my stuff from? Is this really real? Like, why am I paying why am I paying so much money for this? By the way, there was an article that came out. I don't remember if it was like the New Yorker or something like that. This was like a couple of years ago. There's this like a whole community of like wealthy, influential women in New York who compete, who can have the best fake Hermes, not because they can't go out and buy it. It's because like, but why spend that much money if I can get a really good one for $500?
Like winning money in a casino is better than earning
literally,
it at work.
It's a thing that is going on in communities. Yeah.
We needed this perspective on this.
Oh yeah, well now a lot of my friends from out of town, out of state, or overseas, they come when they visit me in New York. They're like, take me to Canal Street. I'm like,
really?
Why? And it was like, oh, I want to go get one of those fake bags because where I'm from, they're unlikely to be able to tell the difference, right? And so I think that there's definitely
Place is Alabama.
I mean, well, you're from that region. I love those are our people, but I do think it is a demoralization thing because I think what they are trying to do is basically say, look, America and women who buy these products mostly, but all of you, I got my Tiffany sneakers on right now. No matter what, whether you're paying $100 for it directly from China or $1,000 for it in America with the brand slapped on it, it is made in China, and it will remain that way. Right? That's what I think that they are trying to meme. So end the trade wars because it's not moving from here, period. That's what I think the message is.
And all right, Chris Dorworth, back with us here. What do you make of these desires to push out these videos with these workers selling the designer stuff just without some of the key branding on it? Stella and Vish say that is straight up CCP information warfare that the Chinese Communist Party is doing to get our elites to beg to get rid of the tariffs. My belief is that to some degree it is the entrepreneurial spirit of some of these folks busting through the corporatized control. Where do you fall on it?
Well, I mean, I'm more inclined to agree with them. This is a big scandal in a lot of ways because, first of all, think about the industry you're talking about. It's $300 to $350 billion a year as of 2022, 2023. That's a lot of money. And what these videos are saying, like everyone knows, if you go to certain parts of New York City, you can buy knockoff handbags and knockoff shoes. That's no secret. This is different. What they're saying is that we actually have the same OEMs, the same equipment manufacturers that are building these bags for Hermes or Gucci, and the exact same thing, and they just take it, they ship it right over to France. And that one of the videos actually made fun of like, oh, it's so fancy in Europe. All they do is put the label on there. And I mean, my question is this: it's a big deal if this is right, and why have none of them denied it? Why have Gucci? Why has Hermes come out and said like that is not true? The reason they haven't done it is because it probably is true. So I think it's sort of it's almost like a whistleblower on behalf of the folks there because you look on Instagram, you see these influencers, they try to promote this lifestyle. I mean, why does one bag cost $36,000 and the other bag costs $36? It's because of this idea of that it's exclusive, that it's something special. And the reality is like now we know like listen, it's the same materials, and it's there. So I think it's a big deal, and I'm just highly fascinated by the fact that not one person from these major chains has come out. So I, in preparation for the show, because I knew this was going to be a topic, I went online. I said, what do these people think is going to happen if this takes place? And I mean, the crazy thing is like they say like many experts say that this is not accurate. Well, if an expert can't tell, how the hell can anybody else? I mean, like if a guy or a woman who's an expert in handbags or expert in these things cannot look at these and say like that is conclusively not a Birkin bag. How can anybody on the street? And again, is a label from Hermes really worth $34,600? I mean, I almost think there's going to be like a countercultural thing here. Like the prestigious good will be the one that is the guy that bought the Hermes bag for his lady for $1,400 versus the person who paid $34,600 more for a label. I think it's a big deal, and I think the fact that no one has addressed it tells me an awful lot.
But we're talking about leather, though. Like Hermes is like real leather. Like what you're getting from China is not real leather. leather. So
But
Are you
that's
sure?
not what.
Well-
Again, I mean, what these videos say, and again,
Right.
these are TikTok videos, and I'm not going to swear, I'm not going to bet my life on that.
Right.
But what the guy's saying is that we literally go source the same leather, and we make these bags. Like this is an actual Hermes bag that would be shipped
that's
over.
that's sowing doubt in people's minds.
Stella's
There
not
was-
buying it, Chris.
But I will tell you this. This was last year. So there's a Christian Dior bag. Have you seen the Christian Dior bags? They're like big like this, and they have like Christian Dior all over it. It says Christian Dior on it. So there was a video that went viral, several of them saying that, was another one from China saying that it cost them $57 to make, and Christian Dior sells them for like $3,500. And so there were like all these videos going on online being like, you may have a Christian Dior bag from the Christian Dior store that cost them $57 to make. So this was a conversation that was
But see,
happening like
Vish
last year.
is the one person in this conversation who would actually be willing to pay the extra thousands and thousands of dollars for the Hermes H.
Hell yeah.
You are not among those who will be in Chris Dorworth's countercultural movement against the fake credentialization of the branding. So you're against credentialization in higher education, but you are totally for it in high fashion. Why?
Well, the statement that's the statement itself, right? It's to be like, yeah, I dropped the cash on this for that H, right? Because
You want them to know you spent the money.
Yes, absolutely.
How do we know you spent the money? You can just say it.
I mean, okay, if I have to carry it, see, that's why I keep the stickers on the hats, right? Because people will ask the question, oh, how do I know you paid for it? Because look, this is the official, that little holographic little thing that is official from MLB.
Tell, like,
Nobody,
fake Chanel.
Who is looking at you from that angle?
Yeah.
people shorter than me, which is not that many people.
I'm just going to say, if they can source the leather to make a Birkin bag, they could probably fake the hologram on the mat. And I'm just going to say that it's probably within the capacities of the CCP.
You see, that's why I have to go to Lids. I have to get the pay that price. You know what? I'm just gonna walk around with the receipt and tag that on my hat too, just so that everybody knows I paid full price for the real thing.
I think that this is going to be potentially the big distinction between Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Gen Z really brought back the brand loyalty and the overpaying for the brands for the purpose of showing it, because Gen Z had so much disposable income because they never left home. They never had like rent in their early 20s like a lot of millennials and Gen Xers did. So I think Gen Alpha, appreciating the value of gamifying access to the asset, like Stella talked about, like Chris talked about, this will be one of their big deviating points. All right, next thing I got to talk about, my favorite story this week are all of these Democrat caravans to El Salvador. It is my favorite thing happening. Okay, where Trump is doing best with voters is on the issue of immigration, and the fact that we have deported a guy who a trial finder of fact and an appellate court found was tied to MS-13. We've deported that person to El Salvador. He's a Salvadorian national, and now Democrats are leaping over one another to go to El Salvador to, I guess, re-import MS-13
It's insane.
back to the United States. Is there a greater gift Republicans are being given right now, Stella Escobedo?
No, this is what we voted for. Literally, this is what we voted for. And it's such a slap in the face to legal immigrants like me, my family. You know the process we went through to come here? We had to live in another country. Like, we went from the Soviet Union to Italy. We lived in Italy for 6 months. We had to wait to be vetted and all of the process and coming to America. And then you see this and, you know, did you hear Patty Morin, Rachel Morin's mother today? I mean, I started crying. Like, she went into detail. What happened to her daughter, the ruthlessness, the vicious way he attacked her and raped her. And then he strangled her, you know, to death. And, her senator is going over to El Salvador to try to bring back this man who is an illegal alien, who ICE and others, and I just heard Tom Homan talk about it, say he is in fact an MS-13 gang member because they could tell by his tattoos. He has a certain tattoo, but
He had a street name.
Yeah, and the left keeps saying, "Well, prove it." No, you prove it that he's not.
Well, I actually read the DOJ. I think the DOJ released an extra report on that recently. And so the report says that this guy Kilmer was rolled up on in a Home Depot parking lot in Hyattsville, Maryland. And I used to actually live in this area, in the Greenbelt, Hyattsville area, heavily El Salvadorian in Maryland. That in 2019, cops rolled up to this parking lot. There were four people they rolled up on. One of the guys was known right away as being a MS-13 gang member named codename Bimbo. That was his name.
You know you're tough if you got that code name.
Oh yeah, by the way, that's like when the big guy named Tiny, right? Like that's you're in trouble when Tiny comes looking for you, right? So he says Kilmer is now found hanging out with Bimbo, who is a known member, another guy named Maniaco, who's also, that's his street name, Maniaco. He's another known member,
which is Spanish for maniacal.
Right, exactly. And then Kilmer was found to have the tattoos, but also wearing a Chicago Bulls hat, which the Chicago Bulls hat essentially exemplifies that you're a member of good standing in the MS-13, and then also wearing a hoodie that had rolls of the cash on it with the eyes blanked out, the mouth blanked out, because that's another MS-13 thing. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, right? And so this guy is dripped out in MS, everything signaling that he's with MS-13. The fourth guy actually, the cops had no idea if he was MS-13 or not, but they were sure about the other three, and Kilmer was one of them, and he's dripped out wearing the colors, as we say in the streets, they say he's flagging, right? And so if he's flagging the colors and dude, you're part of the gang, right? Or you could be, by the way, you don't want to be mistaken as being part of the gang because an opposing gang member might see that and take you out.
Vish, we left out the fact that he came into this country illegally in 2011.
By the way, this all happened after he came into the country illegally.
Into the country in 2011 illegally. In 2019, that's when he was arrested. And then the judge said that he could stay in this country for the fear that he would go back to El Salvador and be retaliated against an opposing gang.
Yeah, by the 18th Street gang.
Yeah,
which was at war with MS-13.
Yeah.
Right. So so this is total nonsense. But I
get all of those facts. But Chris Dorworth, question for you: do you see this as the political gift that I do? Because I don't know that I could have asked for more from the Democratic Party than to seek the reimportation of MS-13.
Well, the answer is it is the biggest gift ever. And my theory is that I think that the Trump derangement syndrome has officially hit the nervous system. Because you just picture that you have some like collection of staffers for Cory Booker or the other guy, Chris, whatever his name is, that went down to El Salvador. They're like, this is a good idea. Like, who is the constituency for going to rescue an illegal immigrant, MS-13? Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but he's close enough to the fire where why would you call in your chits to do this? The tongue deafness is like legendarily, crazily stupid. And Marco Rubio, when he ran for president in 2016, said oftentimes we demonize our opponents as stupid, but they're not stupid. They're just doing it. This is stupid. This is clearly, plainly, politically toxic. Who's out there like, you know what? I'm really upset about the fact they might have deported an illegal immigrant back to his home country who was a gangster. Like, who are they? Who was the target? Like, that they're like, this, once we do this, we're going to win this constituency back. It's like they're at 21% and they're just dying to shed another 5% because I've given a lot of thought.
Well, here's just how to track the migration of this. Because Democrats believed they had this great political high ground when Republicans were putting kids in cages and separating families. And Democrats had this imagery and they had the media on their side. And we're going to stop the kids in cages. And now it's like, we're going to go get MS-13 out of the cages in El Salvador and bring them back. Vish, how did they go from the kids in cages to the MS-13 in cages and survive?
Possibly on taxpayer dollar, too. Right, Chris Van Hollen?
Totally.
That's what Caroline Levitt said. He probably traveled there on taxpayer dime.
Well, here's what. Listen, I will never complain about Democrats deporting themselves to El Salvador. Okay, I'm pretty sure I voted for that. But a point that I just want to make is that I see all these Democrats on Blue Sky, all the talking about Kilmer, bring back Kilmer, bring back Kilmer. If I go and ask them one question. Do you people know the name of the guy who killed Rachel Morin? None of them will know. None of it. They will not have zero idea. But every single one of them knows Kilmer's name. I think that speaks the volumes that we needed to speak.
Would they let Kilmer crash at their pad?
No,
That's my question for Chris Van Hollen. Chris Van Hollen, are you letting Kilmer hang out at your house?
No, of course not. This is all virtual. They are trying. Look, the and I think we talked about this in the previous episode. The Democrats, the left, are stuck in a mentality of this kind of mass imagery, from the '60s with the civil rights protests. Then one of the things that did work during the Trump administration was the kids in cages, and they're trying to recreate that. But their problem is they got grown adults with tattoos all across their bodies.
Not the same.
And it doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
All right. Follow the money, right? Like, where is this coming from? Like, all these people.
No, they're just listless.
They have lawyers. No, but they have all these lawyers, these NGOs. There's all these, organizations that want to promote open borders.
Look, we've seen how unpredictable things can get, whether it's supply chain issues, unexpected emergencies, or just trying to get a doctor to prescribe what you already know you need. It's become way harder than it should be. That's why I trust All Family Pharmacy. They're not just another online pharmacy. They're changing the game. They put you first, giving you the freedom to order what you need when you need it, so you're never left without the essential medications. They've got everything: ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, daily maintenance meds, emergency kits, a whole lot more. I get my magnesium supplements there. Over 200 medications are ready to ship. Yes, you can order in bulk. Be prepared. Their process is simple. Just fill out a form online, and then one of the licensed doctors gets you the prescription you need, and the meds are shipped right to your door. No insurance required, no hassle, no more waiting around or being unreasonably limited in your options. That's what real medical freedom looks like. You're in control, just as it should be. Stock up today. Make sure you get your meds on hand. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Matt. Code for 10% off your next order. Trust me, these are folks doing it right. All right, last thing I want to talk about. I believe we are setting up for a circumstance in our politics where Republican officials are going to have to be willing to face contempt of court from judges. Judge Boasberg found this week that there's probable cause to hold Trump administration officials in contempt. Judge Boasberg was trying to conduct the foreign policy of the United States by dictating when we were at war and who could be deported. And I actually think this is going to have to be the new litmus test going forward. You and I know a lot of people in D.C. right now who are still getting those jobs at the operational level of the United States government. And I think they need to look themselves in the eye and say, you know what, it might be me standing in front of some Judge Boasberg one day saying, that's right, I gave the order for the planes to take off and for the illegal immigrants to be deported while the United States is enduring this war. Are we up to that moment, Vish, in this movement today?
I'm surprised. I would be surprised if anybody didn't realize we were in that moment in the first place. When Roger Stone was getting prosecuted, when Navarro went to jail, when Steve Bannon went to jail, I walked him to prison, right? Like this has been happening even before we got there. Now we're in. Everyone's resting on their laurels, thinking that it's all over. Everyone's just going to comply. And no, the judges are back in your face, in your grill, ready to hope. Now you got Boasberg ready to put people in contempt and, maybe sick the marshals on them, however it is that they make that happen to get those people in jail. But every single one of those people, they should have known that this was the question that they were going to be asked, and they should have had an answer for it already. And so, yes, this is a real thing that these people are going to have to face, and they got to be ready for it and stand proud and say, I am here to serve my country, serve my president. I did as directed. I remained loyal. I did not do any insubordination or anything like that. I was told to do this, and I did it, and I'm proud to do it. That's the reason why I'm in this administration, in this role in the first place.
So that very litmus test, when applied to the left, seems to center around violence and vandalism and like the willingness to go and set a Tesla dealership on fire. We have seen people show up at the town hall meetings of Democrats angry, saying, why haven't you been arrested yet? Why haven't you engaged in violations of the law to stop Trump? So do you think that if on the right the litmus test is a willingness to defy a court order, to be held in contempt, is there a litmus test on the left right now where they want to see their leaders leading more aggressive violence or vandalism?
But they've been like this with this violence and vandalism. Like, it's okay on their side. And it's so hypocritical. Like, they say one thing and then they do a completely different thing. Like, the fact that the mainstream media doesn't, talk about the fact that Teslas are constantly being set on fire. We have a Tesla, and the other day we parked the car, we walk out, and somebody keyed it. Somebody keyed the Tesla. Okay, I mean,
don't they have cameras everywhere?
They do have cameras.
Did you get good footage?
We're gonna check it out, but
you haven't checked it out yet?
No, I'm sure. It's my husband's car. I don't drive it.
Okay, all right. Now we understand.
The thing for me with Teslas is I'm tired. I don't like charging the cars, so it's just like it's annoying. I want to be able to put gas in it.
I find that you meet the most interesting people at charging stations.
Well,
like your community of fellow Tesla owners at a charging station. All right, but Chris, are you buying that the new litmus test on the right is will you defy a court order? The new litmus test on the left is will you go and burn down, or will you go key Stella's car while she's getting groceries?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take that in two parts. I mean, the first things first. It is clear to me that the progressive message has failed. That's the reason Donald Trump's in the White House. That's the reason the Supreme Court is overwhelmingly Republican, or I guess conservative in theory. We have a Chief Justice that's a little squishy, but I mean, it's a Supreme Court level. If you think about it, if Donald Trump had lost to Hillary Clinton, there would probably be a majority liberal progressive bench.
Definitely.
So we want that. We and the Congress is both Republican. So this is basically what they have left. This is the power lever that they have left. It's interesting to me, like when they say there's criminal contempt against the administration, why couldn't Trump just pardon him or commute it right away and be like, this is BS, moving on? I mean, it's not going to work, but it's clear to me that this is the final thing to fight over. And so,
but Chris, I think they do it because they want to push this violation of norms narrative. I don't think they've given up on that.
Well, I mean, what happens now is like federal judges, they in their respective districts, they appoint their own clerk, and it's just very clear there's some that are just wired to do it. So for some reason, every time a court case gets filed, this Boasberg guy tends to get it, and I don't think that's a mistake. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think this is very much gamed. I think the smart people in that party, this is what they're doing right now. The question is, when do we make the decision as an administration? When does Trump say, "I've just had enough of this. This is clearly obstructionist. It's anti-American behavior. It's treacherous, in my opinion." And when do we just say enough is enough? And my guess is that's coming soon, because
but this is the way I think it comes to head. Like, the reason I want to talk about it is the way I think it comes to head is by judges giving orders that patriotic administration officials are unwilling to follow because they adhere to the Constitution and the Article 2 powers are clearly delineated therein. And then the gut check is, does the power of the court's contempt function as a sufficiently compulsory tool to be able to win? Or is our ability to pardon, like you said, or our ability to control the federal marshals become what's dispositive?
Well, the issue I have is that the Supreme Court is in the Constitution. All the subsidiary courts, they're all statutory functions.
Bingo.
If we have a Republican Congress, why are they not dealing with this? I mean, they could just get rid of it. They could take the power, but they don't, which is just very clear that they're in on it in my mind. So, so that's the first question. The second,
wow, minute 46 for the hottest take of the show. Congress is in on the judicial coup, according to Chris Dorworth.
What about impeachment?
Why won't they fix it?
All right, hold on. Well, we have to address this. We have to address this in like a lightning round. Stella, do you agree that Congress actually is for some of this judicial activity because it gets them off the hook from having to make tough decisions?
Could be. I mean, why are we waiting for the impeachment proceedings? Like, what are we waiting for?
All right, I got a could be out of Stella. Vish?
Yes, just do it. That's the thing, right? Like, what Nancy Pelosi was able to do with such a thin majority and get all these people to pass crazy bills and stuff, even when they were in the majority, astonishing. The fact that I don't care if it's a 1, 2, 3 seat majority. I don't care if you're never going to get the 2/3 votes to actually remove the guy. You got to put up the symbol. Put up the symbol. Yes, we're impeaching them, right? We voted, every Republican in this conference is not down with this. We are going to use our powers to the maximum limit that is allowed by the Constitution. And so, yeah, we're going to put that mark on them. You think that when the Democrats impeached Trump and they knew they didn't have the votes in the Senate, they said, "Oh well, we'll never get him removed, so we're gonna back off this effort." No, they went and did it anyway.
Yeah, but okay, so I will concede that point. But what I don't believe, what animates it, is an actual desire for the judiciary to prevail over Trump in these battles. I actually think that the Congress is so weak and disjointed that they are incapable of being a sufficient force multiplier for Trump. But I don't think they're like in on wanting to get off the hook on making the tough decisions and eager for the injunctions. They're just there to cede authority because they don't know how to use their power, and they're willing to cede it to Trump.
But to Vish's point, though, the DNC, like the Democrats, are always basically always aligned.
Yeah, they're socialists.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I get it because yes, they have a Borg mentality, and so they're aligned on everything. But then on our side, it's like the complicity is also no good. Just like letting these judges run wild, you have the authority of oversight over it, right? And I just don't see anything from our side addressing this, right? And so
I would at least haul them in.
Right, the subpoena should be flying, right? Out of oversight, out of judiciary.
Times I've said
Are we
this.
waiting on Judge Jordan?
And I know that, and I know we've been through this with back in the Congress with the Hunter Biden subpoenas. Why aren't these things going out? And look, like now we have the president, right? Like we have the White House. Theoretically, we have the Supreme Court. Where are the guns in the White House? I mean, I'm sorry, in the Congress. Where are they?
Well, I just asked this question. The Supreme Court made what I thought was a horrible ruling, and it said that a district court can bind an entire national thing. If there's any bill that this legislature should pass, why would that not be the one? How hard is that to do?
The House has passed that. It awaits action in the Senate. It is our good friend Darrell Issa's bill, represents part of the San Diego area, and the Senate should take it up and pass it immediately. Unfortunately, we are out of time on this delightful episode of Anchormen.
That flew by. That was so much fun.
But make sure if you're still eager for more, you can catch Stella delivering the straight news, 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock Eastern, 11 and 1 Pacific here on One America News. And we've got the Matt Gaetz Show at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. Vish will be with us Friday. And where can folks follow you on X, Chris?
At Chris Dorworth, ChrisDorworth.
All right. How about you, Stella? How can folks follow you?
Stella Esco TV on X.
Vish.
At Vishbura, VISHBURRA.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Anchormen.
Want to see more great videos like this? Click on the link below to subscribe to OAN Live and watch Dan Ball's Real America and The Matt Gaetz Show on Dish Channel 212. Tune in, subscribe, and watch today.